Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. Sergio Nazzaro, welcome to the podcast, dude. Super excited to chat with you today.
Dude, thanks for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Man, so you are obviously a super disciplined guy. You've got a ton of work ethic. You're doing some amazing things, it seems like. Were you always this type of person?
No, fuck no, dude. I used to be so lazy. Like, it was all about pizza, chicken strips, and just like drinking soda, man. And then, yeah, I was living the good life.
Well, how did you get from a guy drinking soda, eating pizza, being lazy, to the guy you are now, super healthy, super fit? I know your business is really successful. Like, how does somebody go from that? Well, first off, we should probably figure out, like, I want to know, like, how you became lazy, like what caused that period of your life, and then we'll kind of go into how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Dude, I think I was just a teenager, right? Like, I was just, just bad habits from being a teenager, and like just never really, I mean, I wasn't like, the fattest I ever got was like 192 pounds, but that's like between my prep school year, my freshman year at the Air Force Academy, and I was just crushing like 30 racks of Keystone Light and eating Wendy's all day. And I think it just, breakups will get you, man. Your heart hurts. You're going to be doing some dumb shit. And I think that was the dumb shit I kind of tapped into, was just drinking and eating like crap, and I think what really kind of, put the ship on the right course eventually was like, I was like, damn, I'm 5'6", I'm 19, I'm losing my hair, and I'm fat. I was like, this ain't going to work out for me too well if I don't fix this. So I just had one of those moments where I was like, dude, I want to get in shape. And so from there on, I made the decision to start to lose some weight. And then I went into survival training at the Air Force Academy and lost like 22 pounds in 10 days.
Holy shit. That's nuts. Yeah. So you were your heaviest when you were 19 years old?
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. And that was from a breakup, you said?
Yeah, dude, my high school girlfriend, like, young love's hard on the soul, man. And I was sitting there being like, oh, just like everybody with their first girlfriend, like, oh, this is it. I'm going to be one of those high school sweethearts. Well, she slept with my best friend during basic training, and things didn't go so well after that. And, dude, that was kind of like the kick in the ass for me to kind of get myself together.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's so funny. I mean, not in the moment, it's not funny. Looking back, it's kind of funny of like those moments when you're in high school or like, around that like adolescent age where those things seem like it's going to be so permanent where you're like, this is the end of the world. Like, how am I ever going to get my life back together? But it's like, you're 19, you're so young. But I mean, in that moment, it sounded like it was a good thing because you're like, you got your shit together because of it.
Yeah. And I think, part of that too is like, those moments, even though they happen when you're 18, they refine you. They give you, they help callous you a little bit. They teach you a lot about who you are and what you can overcome, right? Like the adversity of heartbreak and like digging deep, having to figure out, well, like, is this the man that I want to be? Or is there a different version of me that I want to become? And, am I going to do this for her? Am I doing it for me? And it's this, even though it's at 18, 19 years old, those lessons are powerful. And those lessons teach you a lot about you as a young man. And so I feel like even though it hurt in the moment, like, she's cool. Like, if I saw her on the street, I wouldn't care now. But in the moment, right, it taught me a lot about what I wanted in a relationship, and it wasn't that.
Right. Dang. And that, again, that was enough of a catalyst to like probably be a pretty big shift for the rest of your life, right? Because like, say that didn't happen, like maybe you could have continued down the path of like not being who you are now, I suppose, continuing like being lazy, not taking care of yourself. So it's interesting how those things work out. But so you said you went to the military academy in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, mostly because my parents couldn't afford college. Right? They got shit, man. They took bad advice from a real estate agent. We ended up homeless for a bit, and they had no money. And so 9/11 happened, and it was the first time in my entire life that I got the calling in my soul. I've only had it happen 4 times, the calling in my soul of what I needed to do. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go serve my country. And it was for one, to go, after 9/11, I felt like this call to do it. And then two, I was like, well, my parents can't afford school. I better go trying to help them out a little bit.
Dang, how was your experience at the Air Force Academy? I've heard those military schools are no joke.
Dude, the first 2 years suck. And then the third, fourth, and fifth year, because I had to go 5 years because I wasn't smart enough to get into the Air Force Academy the first time. Man, they still suck. They just suck a little bit less, you know? But I would say, yeah, it's a good experience. You make a lot of good friends. You have things that happen to you at such a young age that you couldn't get anywhere else. Leadership training, survival training, basic training, and then you get a job after graduating. Like, it's a pressure cooker. It's a pressure cooker for 5 years, and it's like I think the attrition rate, it's almost half. Only half the class graduates.
Oh my gosh, just because they drop out, they just can't handle all that pressure.
Yeah.
Damn. What do you think got you through that? Was it the motivation of like, I don't really know what else I would do, or what do you think kept you going through that?
I think what started me and what kind of kept me in it was the idea that, on the other side of like leaving this prestigious opportunity was a version of me that I had to always reflect back on, being like, fuck, like what would have happened if I had just stuck with it? And I didn't want to have that regret in my life. And then another part of me that kind of got through it was, dude, there's just they do a really good job of telling you, hey, if you graduate from here, you're the cream of the crop. And so, I'm young, right? I want that external validation. I want to be able to be like the best of the best. And so I was like, dude, that's enough for me to stick it out. And then once I found my crew of guys that I ran with, like, game over from there.
Interesting. So like the confidence that they gave you while you were there, because they're like, it sounded like they were telling you like, you're here for a reason. You're here because you're, a step above average. Is that what it was, kind of?
Yeah. As we talked about this, I think it was my first introduction to sales. Like, they were selling it hard, man. Like, you're the best of the best. You're going to be the cream of the crop. Like, nobody else is going to stand a chance against you, right? Like, all of that type of stuff. They were just sowing the seed, and they did a good job. And so I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm glad I did. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I'm glad I did.
Would you go through military school like that again if you had to like redo that part of your life?
Like, knowing what I know now?
Yeah.
Oh shit, man. I don't know. I've had like nightmares where I'm like starting all over and like I lost it. So I don't know if I would do it again. I don't think I can make 5 years of it. Not now. There's no way. It's kind of like getting tattoos. Like, tattoos hurt a lot less when I was trying to impress girls. I was like, damn, they're going to think these are awesome. And now that like I'm married and my wife doesn't give a shit, it's like every time I get a tattoo, I'm like, oh, these hurt so bad. Why am I doing this? Right? So I think in that same vein, I don't know if I'd want to stick through the pain, man.
That's funny. I've never heard anybody compare a military school to tattoos, but I get the correlation. That makes perfect sense. So after you graduated from Air Force, did you serve after that, correct?
Yeah. So I served for 6.5 years. I was supposed to go to pilot training. Ended up deciding, well, I kind of want to be with this girl that I'm with. I don't really know if I want to spend 12 years in the military. And ended up deciding to not go to pilot training. We broke up just a few months later. And, I think it was one of the best decisions I made because it allowed me to, move to LA. I worked on nuclear defense systems, with the German government down in Hawaii for a few years. I was down in like Cheyenne Mountain, so like NORAD, like the base inside the mountain for a few years. And then I wrapped the whole thing up with Afghanistan for 7.5 months. So it was quite the experience, and definitely glad that I made the decision to not go fly.
Holy cow, that's wild. So you said you were in LA doing stuff with the German army and like nuclear arms. What did you say that was? That sounds like a wild experience.
So I was working on nuclear defense systems, so satellite systems that if the U.S. was going to get an attack on it, we would have the intercept technology to basically take out whatever attack was coming our way. And that's what we were working on.
Damn. That's a very unique perspective, unique position to be in. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, like, I'm 23, as a brand new second lieutenant, and I'm like, what the hell? Why are you guys trusting me with this? But I mean, you get thrown into the deep end, and it's like you're definitely in the fire. And so I learned a lot about just the ability to become an effective communicator, to lead other men and women, and just the magnitude of what we actually do.
Dang. So you had some soldiers or other military members like underneath you that you were in charge of?
Yeah, I had some additional airmen below me. I also had a lot of civilians that I worked with. So I had, right out of the gate, I'm leading people at 23, and yeah, I mean, you don't know a whole lot, so you're trying to figure it out on the fly and kind of pick up on what you learned at the academy. But that's like really my first exposure to managing different personalities, different people, different sexes. So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like the military is so good at teaching people how to be leaders. Like lead a small group of people, or obviously as you progress, bigger and bigger groups of people, and just how to manage people, and provide like that individual approach to all these people within a group. Is that, do you think, one of the biggest lessons you got out of being in the military?
I think leadership was a big one. I also think just the ability for time management and like project management, that's a really big one that I took out of that. And then just, discipline, and not discipline and being like, oh, working out really hard and that type of stuff, but like discipline in the sense of like, sometimes you have to do the boring stuff to get the job done. And it's not always the sexy thing to do. But the discipline to stay focused on those tasks is really important. And when you start your own business, that's kind of helped me a ton. So
yeah, that's the idea of discipline versus like motivation, where like motivation is this like temporary feeling that you get that like might get you off the couch and go do something, or might get you to start a business, but like it's the discipline that I think is required to stick with something, and like you said, show up on the days where you don't want to be there, on the stuff that's like so boring and like mundane that nobody else wants to do. But that's what the discipline is to me. Is that kind of what how you would describe it as well?
Dude, I think motivation is kind of like the spark to start to build some discipline, especially in the beginning. Like some people are disciplined in certain areas of their life, but let's be real. Like you need some motivation from time to time to simply get back into whatever your discipline is. Like, dude, I love turning on some good Jocko or some David Goggins or whatever YouTube video, insert it into my headphones sometimes just to get me out, and go work out. But the majority of the time I don't need it. So I think motivation kind of comes into play in the beginning when you're building out your habits before your habits turn into a discipline. But eventually you realize like motivation, it's just like happiness. It's a fleeting emotion, and it comes and goes so fast that you have to rely on this discipline aspect, because motivation is emotional and discipline has no emotion to it. And so when your emotional gas tank is gone, discipline is what you can kind of lean on. Would you feel the same way?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you described it perfectly. That's exactly how I was thinking about it. It was like motivation's a feeling, discipline is like a skill, basically. It's like one has, one's tied to emotion, one is not. So I think that's a perfect way of thinking about it. And I think even just like acknowledging that and thinking about things in that way is so powerful, because I think, a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't even take the time to consider how these different things affect them and like, take action on some of these things. But even just thinking about it in that way is probably super helpful for a lot of people. So you have this saying, I think it's like your slogan for your brand is become the standard. What does that mean? Explain that to us.
Dude, so I'm sitting here on a coaching call with some people, and I'm going off on this tangent, and I was like, you need to stop looking to other people as your motivation. You need to stop living on borrowed light. You need to become the fucking standard, so that when people look at you, you are the epitome of what it looks like in your body, in your relationship with your creator, as a mother or as a father, as a husband or as a wife, and in your career. Like, you become the standard of what it means to be successful in these. And I was like, fuck, that's what we're going to call it. And so it just clicked. And the reality is, right, the way I look at this is, don't set the standard. Like, become the standard for your wife on how you want to show up in the family. Become the standard for your children, so when they look at you, they have a framework and a blueprint of what it is. Become the standard in your business, so that when other people are like, how'd you do it? Be like, hey, here, just follow this. Like, I'll show you everything I need to do. And become the standard in your fitness, so that when you're 45 and you pop the top and you take your shirt off, people are like, I didn't know that was possible.
I think, unfortunately, so many people try to, either follow what somebody else is doing, or they try and just fit in and be normal and like be like everybody else. But if you kind of live by that ethos of like becoming the standard, like that's gonna work for your unique situation, for your life. Like everybody obviously has a unique position. And so I love that idea of just like, for whatever position you're in, become the top tier, like the superior self that you can be for that position that you're in. So because it can be applied to anybody and anything. I love that idea. What kind of coaching do you do? Is it like performance coaching, mindset coaching?
Yeah, it's a lot of performance coaching. So mostly around relationships. There's some business in there, and then there's really a lot of your connection with yourself. The way I look at it is I have a responsibility to wake up the souls of men and women to see what's possible in their life, and then create a plan for us to fucking get there.
I love that. How did you get into that originally?
Dude, it's been a wild journey. So I was coaching CrossFit, right when I got out of the military. I enjoyed that. I was leading in the military, then I started coaching CrossFit, and then I became a real estate agent, which is just me coaching clients through a process. And then I realized, I was like, damn, dude, I've had a lot of life experiences, and I've led my way through all of these things. I've invested in therapy and coaches, and I feel like everything that I've gone through is a waste if I don't look to all the men and women to the left of me who are 5, 7, 10 years behind me and fucking reach back and help them out. Like, they should be further than me when they get to my spot because of the lessons that I can give them. And so I just felt like it was my duty to kind of step into that role.
One thing I get, because I'm a coach as well, and I'm assuming you probably get it all the time, is like people asking you, hey, do you have any like coaching certifications, or do you have like a certificate to coach people? And I'm like, yeah. No. Like, in my opinion, I would rather work with a coach who has gone through the stuff that I'm going through, or is at the point that I want to be at, rather than work with somebody who's never done anything, but yet they took a course and they have a certificate. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I go, come talk to my wife. Come look at my fucking house. Come look at my bank account. Come work out with me. I'll show you my fucking certs. I was like, I've led my way through all this shit. I was like, we can go through anything that you want to go through, and I guarantee you that I've been through it, and if I haven't been through it, I know somebody that can guide us through it. And so to me, it's like a certificate is just somebody wants to put you in a box because they think you have to check this in order for you to lead me. And it's like, you have no fucking clue what goes on in this world.
Yeah, that's I think you hit it right on the head. I think that just learning from people who have the experience and like that have gone through it, that's going to be so much more valuable, so much more powerful than somebody who went to school or like took a course. I mean, that has some value too, but like again, it's the experience is always going to trump some.
How do you answer that when people ask you that question? I'm always curious.
I basically say the same thing, because it's like I coach primarily people for like running, like marathons and stuff, and people like, do you have like a running coach certificate or something? I'm like, no, but I've ran these times, I've ran these distances. Like, I know a million people who have. Like, I know the formula to it, and that's the answer I give to them is like, I know how to do it. I don't have a certificate because I don't need one.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
Okay.
I just ran my first, I had never run anything over 6 miles before. And I just ran 11.4 on Saturday. And
nice.
I was pretty stoked about it, man. I don't have any desire to go further, but I'm good.
Dude, I don't know. It's a slippery slope, man. Once you start getting further and further, it's like, if you have the mindset that I presume you do, of like, I did 11.5 this weekend. What if next weekend I do like 12 or like 13? It's like, That's how it goes typically.
I'm trying to tame the beast, man, but it's hard. I was out there, no headphones, no music, just rolling. And dude, it was an experience, as you know.
Dude, what did you think about running with no headphones? Do you always run with no headphones?
Most of the time. I love it. I feel like it taught me a lot about me. I feel like I lived a whole day in 2 hours.
Yeah. Dude, you get all the ups and downs during a run like that, or like, because you're doing something hard. There's definitely a good bit of suffering in something like that. Like, you might feel good and you might feel like shit, and then 10 minutes later you feel good again. It's the weirdest thing. And I think a lot of people that wear headphones, I personally don't, for this exact reason, is like I think when you wear headphones, you're distracting yourself from that, and you're not getting that benefit. Obviously, you're still getting the physical exercise benefit, but like I don't run for the physical aspect. I run because of the mental benefits, and running without headphones provides all of those, in my opinion.
I agree. I think it's a completely different experience. I mean, I used to run with headphones. So, I mean, to what we talked about earlier, before I had the discipline to go out and run, I'd have to put in music. Like I'd throw in some Eminem, or I'd throw in some like Jocko in my ear and be like getting going. But once I had the discipline that I was a runner now, I'm just a runner. This is what I do. I didn't need the headphones. And so I took away the motivation and simply just relied on the discipline I had created.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to explain it. That was basically my story as well. Like I couldn't go for a run without putting on like a Goggins podcast or something. Like because I just need him in my ear telling me I'm a bitch and like I need to get my shit together. And then again, like that was enough. It was enough of a spark to like get me out the door to become a runner. Like kind of identify as that and build that discipline. So yeah, everything's connected, man. And I think that's one reason I love running so much in particular is because it's such a good metaphor for all these different things. It's a very tangible way to experience a lot of that stuff. So after you got out of the military, you said you did some coaching, and then I definitely want to talk about your real estate business a little bit because it seems like fairly quickly it just kind of blew up, right?
Dude, it took off. And I think there was always pushback from people at the brokerage about how fast I took off. You know, like people were like, I'll say this, like people were cheering for me in the beginning because they're like, oh, you're new. Until I started doing so much business that they were like, they turned their back on it. I was like, all right, so you guys were cool before I could like surpass you. And then once I did, I was like your competitor. I was like, I'm not really, it is what it is. But I think the reason like it took off so quickly was because from like 2015 until about 2018 when I started real estate, dude, I was in therapy working through PTSD. I was exploring my outer limits of shit in my life. I was figuring out who I wanted to be as a man. I was journaling. I was meditating. I was building this mindset. I was building these disciplines. And then the moment that I found the arena that I could play in, where all of these skills kind of came together, it was like, if I hadn't succeeded, I mean, I would have been shocked. So nobody got to see that part of the story. They only saw me come in day one. And by, month 12, I was at the top of the leaderboard.
Damn, I love that. So you're building all this stuff behind the scenes, like the mindset that's required to be successful. And then to them, because they probably came in maybe before they had established that kind of stuff, right? And it's like, oh, this is just another new guy. It's gonna take him X amount of years to build up. He just came in and fucking crushed it.
Dude, I was just swinging for the fences, and I was just like, listen, the market was hot, so I had some luck. I had some tailwinds, which is great. I'm not gonna knock that. But listen, when opportunity was there, I was ready for it because I just approached learning these skills in real estate just like I had approached everything else. Like I would work and then I would come home and study. I would work and then I would come home and study. And on the weekends I would study and I would, make videos and I would have conversations with people about real estate and I would stumble through it. And I was like, damn, that wasn't it. And then I would just continue to put myself in these pressure situations until one day I had a chance to, help somebody buy a $2.3 million home. And it was the first time that I was like, all of the words that were coming out made sense and they were in order. So,
dang. What work were you doing before? Was it just coaching? Is that all you were doing before you started into real estate?
So I was an account manager at a tech company here in Denver. That's where I met my wife. And it was basically project management and customer relations. So very similar to real estate. You have a client, you have a project, and you're just managing the whole thing. And I had project management in the Air Force too. So it was just this constant evolution of project management. Then you get into real estate, and it's the only difference now is sales and marketing. You just have to learn that.
Was that job you had before pretty corporate? Was it like a typical 9 to 5 corporate kind of deal?
It was 9 to 5, but they were so cool. Like we had unlimited vacation. You could leave if you got your work done. Dang. They didn't care at all. It was dope.
That had to have been a tough thing to leave then. Like what was it that sparked leaving something that sounds pretty dang good to real estate, which is obviously way more unpredictable?
There's two people there that I really liked working with. One was the lady who hired me, Elizabeth, and then two, this other guy named Mark Punier, and he was one of my mentors. Well, Elizabeth ended up she moved away, right, and she got a new job. And then Mark, he ended up being like, you know what? I'm going to step out as the CFO and we're going to have just somebody else come in. I was like, dude, the two people that I wanted to stay here for are gone. We got a new guy that came in. He was an absolute dickhead. Almost got into a fist fight with this dude in a meeting. I've never been in a fight in my life. And he was just being a prick. And so I was like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. And I was trying to figure out if I was going to quit, if I was just going to ride it out and try to find a new job. Went to a yoga class. Get ready for this, man. Went to a yoga class. I had been like trying to like meditate on it, pray to God about it. I'm doing like downward dog or not, like threading the needle, going to Shavasana. And I just hear my grandpa go, just go do it. And I walked into my job the next day and I quit.
Damn. Dude, that's powerful. Is it, but did your grandpa pass away like recently or?
Not recently. He had passed away probably like a couple years prior to that. And I had always been like, I would always turn to him for advice.
Damn.
And that was the second time. I told you there was 4 like knowings in my soul. That was the second one. And he was just clear as day. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to fight this anymore. Whether that's from the man upstairs or him speaking through him, like I'm going. And so I just did it. And left making what I think it was like $65,000 a year. And went into a full commission job. I didn't make a dollar for 7 months.
Oh my gosh. That for those 7 months where you're like, oh no, what have I done? What did I get myself into?
Dude, I was like, I just moved in with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. I'm sitting there being like, fuck, dude, I think I messed up. Started filling out a new resume. Right, my LinkedIn profile was looking sharp. I was like, I'm going to go give me a job. I was like, I can't be just sitting here like depending on my girlfriend to buy ramen for dinner. And I met a coach. I went to an event and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't have the money to sign up for this, but I signed up for it. And probably like 2 months later, so month 8, I got 3 homes under contract, and it was a freight train from there.
Dang. Was it like a real estate course you did, like a real estate coach?
Yeah, I hired a real estate coach. He's still one of my good friends. His name's Kevin Ward, and he showed me a different way to think about sales and a different way to play this game of real estate, and it clicked. And the moment I realized like I wasn't selling houses, I was selling myself. I was like, fuck, you guys are done. I was like, I know how to sell myself. I've been trying to sell myself as a 5'6" person to tall girls for a long time. And I've had to earn these dates. Like girls don't come in and be like, hey, that 5'6" guy, that's the guy we want to talk to. It's like, no, I got to earn this as a short guy. And so I took that skill set into real estate, and it's been like, it served me well.
That's hilarious, dude. The whole height thing, oh my gosh, it's so dumb. It's like, obviously you can't control your height, and there's all this shit on the internet of like, you got to be at least 6 foot tall to be eligible. Like, it's so dumb. Anyways,
it makes me laugh, man, too, because like girls are always like, I want a guy who's funny. Yeah. And all that means is like, I want a guy who's tall. Go fuck yourself. All right, I know what that means.
What do you think? So you're saying that like real estate, it's like sales and marketing. Yeah. And it sounds like you've got it figured out now for the most part. What do you think are some of those like secrets or those skills that you had to develop, like specifically?
Yeah, I think the majority of it is sales. Like you have to be willing to put yourself in a position where somebody can tell you no, and like be okay with that. And that's just part of the game. And it may be no, and a no actually may be a maybe, or a no maybe I don't have all the information. A no is usually you didn't do a good enough job of somebody or explaining something to somebody. And to me, what I realized is the overlap of marketing and sales is your ability to tell a story effectively and then lead somebody to a decision. Now, the answer to that decision might be a no, right? But you have to guide the story, knowing where you're taking them, asking them the right questions, interjecting with some training, coaching them on what they should expect, allowing them to come in and like share their information, coming around the backside to know that you're going to lead them to this point. And then when they get to that point, they have one choice. Do you want to work together or not? And then once you've done that, right, then they can make a decision because they have all the clarity they need. No different than marketing.
Oh, I've never thought about it that way. I've never had a sales job, never like taken sales courses or anything, so I've never like thought about anything in that way. But that makes perfect sense. It's like you're just laying things out clear as day for people so they fully understand. And you've kind of in your head, I'm assuming you have this like roadmap that you're kind of taking them down. And then it's like, boom, you get to that point, probably pretty predictably because most people are pretty predictable, I'm assuming. And you can get them to that point and it's like, boom, that's where the sale happens. Is that kind of a good way of summarizing that?
Yeah. And I think, transitioning from real estate into coaching, right? It's two different types of sales calls. In real estate, the sales call, like I had done it so much and I've done it so much that I can hear like when the objections are starting to come up. And I know some of the objections are just BS. I know where I can take them through it. But developing the talk tracks around like, well, if they say this, I know that if I say this, this is going to happen. And so you're playing this game of chess, but that took a long time. It took a really long time. You transition over to sales and like coaching. Well, now the product is no longer the home. The product is me. So I have to convince you that signing up with me for 6 months is worth your investment. And that's a different conversation.
Yeah, interesting. Did you learn a lot of that through like these courses and books and stuff you read, or was that maybe like a part of it and then more of it's just like putting yourself out there, like getting into those different situations?
Yeah, man, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Learning from some of my coaches and then just like getting kicked in the dick a bunch. So I think there's a lot of people like to live in theory of what sales are and they never actually do anything with it. But my thought is like, if I learn something, I'm just going to immediately go apply it. And now I know I'm going to mess it up, but like in messing it up, I can refine it really quickly and be like, well, now I've done it. Like I'll never forget, I learned how to lead a sales call for my coaching company and I finally nailed one. And the guy didn't sign up with me. And I walked downstairs and I was like so excited. My wife's like, oh, they signed up. I was like, no. She's like, why are you so excited? I was like, because I did it. And she's like, I wish I could be half as excited for you or as you are about not getting a deal that I ever was in any job that I've ever had. So
that's funny. I mean, it's so it sounds like, I mean, if you can just put yourself in that position to like, or I guess like just build that callus of like being okay with people saying no, right? Like it's just like the mindset more than anything. It sounds like of like, yeah, there's like probably little skills and tactics you can do, but as long as you don't give a shit if people say no, then like you like what situations can't you put yourself into at that point, right? Because it's like, what is it? Success is like opportunity met with preparation. It's like you might have an opportunity in front of you, but you show up unprepared or you're not willing to go into that opportunity, then you're never going to find that success. So it's like that's that mindset shift, right?
It's a mindset shift, the ability to have somebody tell you no, and then also are you recording your sales calls and then going back and watching the tape?
Ah, okay.
Where'd you mess up? Where's the opportunity that they said this and you didn't hear it and you went this way, and even though you should have gone this way, and how like when you were speaking about something, what was your body language like? Did you lose attention? So being willing to go back and critique yourself and make adjustments.
Do you do that with all of your sales calls?
No, I can't. I'd be lying to you if I said all of them, but I've done with some of them. And dude, you want to talk about climbing cringe mountain? I'm sitting there being like, oh my God. All right, cool. But the next call, I'm like, all right, I'm aware of my patterns. I'm aware of my words that I like to use when I get uncomfortable. Like if you haven't noticed, every time I finish a sentence, I'm like, right. So I've tried to adjust that as I'm speaking, and that's helped a ton.
Interesting. Man, I love that. This is very helpful. Just for like, I mean, I feel like sales obviously can be applied in basically any situation, even if you're not like trying to sell for a business or a product. It's just like in our day-to-day lives, we're always trying to sell ourselves to people in terms of like, we want people to like us. We want people to, go along with what we're saying. And it's an interesting tactic, I think. I love that.
Dude, I use this shit on my wife all the time to try and get her to like, do stuff I want to do. She's like, I know what you're doing. I was like, but you can't stop it. So here we go.
Have you ever read Never Split the Difference?
I've listened to part of it. I never finished it though.
Dude, that one, I feel like that could probably be applied to sales. I think it definitely could be.
Probably.
It's from that, he was like a FBI or CIA, like hostage negotiation, hostage negotiation interrogator or something like that. Like he's basically like hostage negotiating in those situations. And he like goes through all these different little tactics of like basically how to persuade people and get people to do the things you want them to in different situations. Like if you're trying to buy a car on a used car lot or something, there's like these little tricks you can do basically. Because it's all, like I said earlier, like humans are so predictable in our psychology.
Oh,
We
yeah.
all basically kind of think the same. And so you can, in a way, I guess, manipulate that, or, not that you're trying to like screw people over, but like, get people to understand, like you said, to give people a clear roadmap of like why they should want something and the value that you can truly provide to them, and therefore sell something to them. I think one of the things in there, which you might use this, is he talks about asking people how questions and why questions rather than like yes or no. It's like a very simple thing, but it's like instead of saying like, I don't know, how did you get your degree at this school, or versus like, did you get your degree in school? It's like one opens the door to like them going into this
Yeah.
whole conversation. You can learn more about them and get them talking. And that's just one
Yeah.
tactic I remember out of that.
The way I look at this is like everybody's got their silos that they have in their life. Some of those silos they're aware of, and the ones they're not. And depending on the question, they'll start to open up doors. And as you go into that door through some of those how questions or describe this to me or whatever it may be, you'll get more information. And before you know it, you can go into a different silo. And before you know it, you've taken them into a room that they didn't even know existed. And they feel like, well, oh, Sergio knows me. How did he know all this about me? And now you've connected that trust. And from there, it's just, okay, this is your problem. This is what you say you want to do. This is the path. Do you want it?
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like the trust during a sales situation is probably one of the most important things, right?
100%. People need to be seen. People need to feel heard. And if they're not, then they just look at you as a salesman. I think when it comes to selling, especially when it comes to real estate or coaching, for me, it was always about, well, I'm interviewing you too. I want to make sure this is a good fit. I'm not just working with you for the sake of working with you. And on top of that, I need to know that you're committed to doing the work. Like, I'm not taking you on and then just beating my head against the wall for the next 6 months because you won't do what we're supposed to be doing. So I think in knowing that, you can lead with integrity and you can lead with empathy and you can lead from a different stance of just, instead of just like trying to close the deal.
Dang, I love that, dude. I'm loving this information. This is all very, very good. I can apply this in my own life. I'm sure everybody listening to this can also apply this in their own life as well. So I think I saw in your bio or somewhere on your social that like that first, I think it was your first year of real estate, you made like 24K, and within like 2 years you hit $1 million. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I went from making $24,000 a year as a personal trainer. That's $12,000 in credit card debt. And then I made $1 million in 24 months.
Holy shit. How'd you get 12K in credit card debt? Just like weren't making enough money, but you had all these expenses essentially?
Bro, I was like going to Vegas and shit with
Oh,
my
no.
boys. I was, going out in downtown Denver and drinking. I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, man. And that's a dangerous spot to be, which is why I went back and got my MBA. Because if you go back to school, the government will give you a housing stipend. And that was like, oh, cool. Now I can just dick around and pretend to get this MBA and I can get paid. It's cool. I'll do that. And I did that, man. And it just didn't work out. Like trying to date girls at that time when all you can offer them is like cuddles and Chipotle, it ain't really going to fly. So I had to figure it out.
Damn. What, here, this is a question I'm always curious about, from somebody who is like experienced, like not saying 24,000 is bottom of the barrel, but it's close to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to making $1 million in a year. Like, how does that money change your life, if at all?
It shows you more of who you are as an individual, and it also exploits a lot of your insecurities. And honestly, I think money's a really good mentor. People think that money is going to change everything. In reality, it just magnifies everything. Like if you were insecure before, you're still going to be insecure. If you're living in a scarcity mindset, it's only going to be magnified because you're afraid you're going to lose it all. And so in this sense, like, does money solve a lot of problems? Fuck yeah, it does. Does it buy happiness? Yes, it does. I don't care what people say. It buys some happiness too. But it doesn't solve all your problems. And so along the way, like can't just go and, hack the branches of change. Like you have to go down and like really get to the root of transformation and figure out like, okay, well, what are the things that are still preventing me from going from 1 million to 10 million? because you can hustle your way through those things from 24,000 to $1 million a year. Like it's just move, 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 go, go, go. Like you can grind it out. But if you want to increase that, you're going to have to figure out like some of these undercurrents of life that run your life that you may not know about. Because if you don't, that $1 million is going to disappear like that.
Dude, that's a great answer. And I'm glad that I'm happy to see that you're like transparent with like money does buy some happiness. Because I can't stand. It's like all the people that are like billionaires that are like, no, money doesn't buy happiness. It's like it can solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of stress and anxiety and shit that's in people's lives, unfortunately, is due to money problems. And so, if like you can remove those, like you said, it's not going to solve every problem in your life, but it can solve some problems, and it can fix a lot of those things. I heard, I think it was Theo Vaughn when he's on Rogan, maybe, and he was talking about like before he had money, before he was successful, he was like, super anxious, he had depression, all this stuff, and then he finally became successful. And he was still the same person. He still had anxiety. He still had like this depression and like all this negativity. And he's like, man, I thought when I got all this money, I was going to change and it was going to solve all these problems. He's like, no, I had to, essentially exactly what you said, of like, I had to go into the roots and the fundamentals of who I am as a person that money can't get to. And I have to fix those on my own. Cause it's like, money's like a surface level fix.
Money it forces you the opportunity to go work on some of that deeper stuff because the other stressors of life have been removed.
That's a perfect way of explaining it.
You earn this position and now you get to figure out, well, do I want to live with these insecurities? Do I want them to continue to drive me? Or do I want to fix this and like really fucking, go into overdrive and hit the afterburners of life and see what I can actually do once I get rid of these patterns that are holding me back? That's where I'm at right now. That's exactly where I'm at right now. I made this money. I've done a great job in real estate, and I'm transitioning into coaching. But what do you think is still at the root of all of this right now? Like this fear that I'm going to lose it all because I was raised poor, and so this is the first time I've had it. And now I got a kid and I got a wife, and I don't want to lose it all. And so now I'm fighting this game of like scarcity. Like I drive a 2013 Subaru, and yet I made $1 million a year. Like I turned my AC on, dude, and I got to like get that motherfucker to turn on. And yet I can afford a new car, but I don't because I'm still living in this mindset. And that mindset, until it's eradicated, will always have me living at this point in my life. And so I'm diligently and with vigilance attacking this so that I can write the next chapter and go from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, and like whatever's possible after that. And so like I'm in the self-doubt right now.
Damn, that's powerful, dude. And I feel like it takes so much awareness to even realize that and think about it in that frame, because I mean, so many people, like it's so easy to just, you make a shit ton of money. You're like, you go buy a new car, you go buy a new house, you go on vacations and all this stuff because you're like, oh, I finally made it. You get comfortable. And then it's like, oh, all that money's gone. Like you said, it's going to be gone in an instant. It's like, but you have to have that like growth mindset. And at the same time, kind of that scarcity mindset of like, oh, we gotta keep pushing. We have to keep growing. Like, this makes things easier. It gives us more freedom to do other things, but it's like we're not done yet. So I love that you have that mindset.
For sure, dude. And it takes a little while to get there.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I would share with the listeners and the viewers is like, give yourself a little bit of grace to get through it. Because there's going to be days where you get past it and you're like, all right, I've overcome this. And then there's just going to be a different version of it that shows up. And you're going to have to get after it again until you really get the lesson out of it. And then once you have the lesson, the problem will go away. But until you've really sat with that, it's going to continue to surface.
I love that, man. So with all these things that you're doing, like I know, well, I guess before I go into that, what's like your fitness routine look like now? Obviously, you're like fit, really healthy dude. What's your fitness routine look like?
Yeah, man, I lift 3 times a week. Like functional bodybuilding. I'm still doing some Olympic lifting, but I'm also, getting some biceps and chest in. Like I'm hitting it all. So I'm lifting 3 times a week, and then I'm doing some type of cardio, either running or mountain biking 3 times a week, especially in the summer. And in the winter, I'm snowboarding. So I'm moving 6 to 7 days a week.
Nice.
And because of the volume that I'm doing, like my body never feels beat up. Like even I thought my body was going to fill up after 11.4 miles. I got done the next day and my knee was a little sore. And then I was like, all right, tomorrow's going to be worse. And then, dude, I was doing 200-pound cleans in the gym on Monday. And I was like, I'm a goddamn superhero over here. Like, this is sweet, you know? So that's been kind of pretty consistent for about a year and a half, with the new focus of like, I've removed alcohol from my life, at least for the next 30 days. Like I'm back in whole foods, right? Like more paleo-ish style. And I'm really focused on recovery and water. Dude. So it's the first time I've ever tracked my macros too. My buddy's a nutritionist. I hired him, and like, dude, that shit's brings a lot of awareness to eating, which has been pretty cool.
Oh, dude, yeah. If you've never tracked before and you track like a couple of days of eating, usually you're like, oh my God, this is not good. It's usually just like a shit ton of carbs, very little protein. That's I think, and most people, if they don't pay attention to that stuff, that's typically how it is. But again, it's just bringing awareness to it, and like, you know, that's the first step to like improving something, is measuring it and becoming aware of it, right? But yeah, I love that. How many miles a week do you say you're running? So you mountain bike a little bit, you do a little bit of running as well?
Yeah, I'm probably putting in 12 to 16 miles a week running.
That's great, man. You're doing all kinds of stuff, like super functional, like well-rounded, it sounds like.
I try to be, right? And like there's days where I'll do more like sprints, right? I'll do like some interval training, and then mountain biking's just, man, like it's so much fun. So I try to stay, man, I got a son, dude, and like I want him to be like, dude, dad looks like a damn god. Like he looks like a Greek god, you know? And I want to be able to like have fun with him. And so for me, it's all about being functional, but also like feeling good in the way I look, because I feel like this, right? This is marketing material. Like nobody's going to follow me if I'm a fat piece of shit, but if I'm shredded and I look good and it's something that people can aspire to, they're going to be like, maybe I can't look exactly like that, or I could look better, but I want to be like that. And now that's something that we can connect on.
Dude, I think that's a perfect point you just made of like your outward appearance to the world. Like, although it's not everything, it's a pretty good indicator of what's on the inside. Because like you said, if you're just a fat slob, like you're not taking care of your health, like why should anybody trust you to take care of their business or their real estate transaction or their life if you're a coach, whatever it is. Like if you're like, versus, you know, somebody like yourself who's like in good shape, you're healthy, you work out consistently, like there's a good chance that you're paying attention and being disciplined in all other areas of your life too.
Yeah, and I tell people that, like, I'm anti-dad bod. Like, fucking dad bods, I'm done with that shit. Like, I'm on a mission to get these fucking dumpy motherfuckers into shape. And I say that because, like, the only way for you to lead, right, is to be able to lead yourself. And I'm not saying you need to be six-pack jacked, but what I am saying is that, like, to your point, your body is a direct reflection of your decisions. And the good thing about this is, like, you can see it. And I'm not just talking about, like, people who are, you know, chubby that need to work on it. The other side, you have guys who are popping pills, taking Adderall, you know, doing all this type of stuff to stay skinny, and then they drink a gallon of vodka at night, and that doesn't show up, and they're just as bad. So like we have both sides of the story, and the goal here is like to get to a position where you're making the decisions and you're treating your body in a way that puts you in a position of power and leadership.
100%, and it just like mentally you feel better too. Like physically you feel better, mentally you feel better. It's like I think we've all got this like pent up energy that we all just need to get out every day, and you get that out through exercise. Yeah. And I talk about it a lot, but like I think that's where a lot of like anxiety, depression, a lot of this mental health stuff comes from, is just lack of exercise. Like if people just got out and moved for like 20-30 minutes a day, I think it would solve so many problems for so many people. Yeah,
I agree. Have you always been like in good shape?
For the most part, I played sports growing up, so that was helpful. Like, I'm definitely thankful to my parents for keeping me in sports. In college, I like would lift a few times a week, but like I drank, I ate like shit, always fast food, like ramen noodles. Like, I was working out to like try and look good rather than like be healthy. And now over the last few years, like definitely shifted of like, okay, I don't really care how I look. That's more of just a byproduct of being healthy. And so now I'm focused on like, you know, vitamins and nutrition and strength training, running, all this stuff to just be a healthy person so I can feel good and I can, you know, live longer and be happier. And then again, you know, the physical aspect is just a byproduct of all that.
Yeah. Nice.
Dude, so how do you balance all these things? Like the exercising, the business that's killing it, a family, because you've got a wife and kid, I believe. Yeah. So like, how do you balance all that? Because that is a lot to handle and a lot to try and, you know, keep growing and keep pushing forward all at the same time.
Yeah. I used to treat each one of these domains as separate domains. Like I had my body, and then I had my connection with myself and God, and then I had my connection with, my relationship with Lizzie, my wife, and my son Luca, and then I had my business. And it was like I was running 4 different things until I started to realize that they're all interconnected. Like me working out and having high energy levels and confidence in myself allows me to be a better leader in my business, which means I'm making more money. And me having a better connection with myself, right? And like working out and not having all that, like now I know who I am. And since I'm not drinking and this conduit's clear, like I'm getting like downloads from like the universe. But more importantly, like when I feel good, right? And I look good, well, like my sex life is much better. And like I have the energy to go talk to my wife and I want to take her out on dates and I get to play with my son, And so like I can see how one domain works in all of that. And then I work on like my relationships with my my wife and my son. And when those are in really good positions, well, then I can show up into my business and be like, all right, cool. I don't have to worry about a fight that I just got into. Like I can be fully present, fully here. And so I know that like when these relationships are whole, that I can do this. And then I don't feel guilty going mountain biking, And then I know that if I work on myself and I get a deep knowing of who I am and I work on my emotions, right? And I'm able to like not lash out because I'm stressed out. Well, that makes me a better husband. And now I'm less responsive at work. And so my cortisol is lower in my body, which means I look better. So all of these are interconnected. And so the moment that I was able to tie them all together and see them as levers, like if I pull this one, what's the impact? Well, now it's moving together as like a functional, like little like system. And that has made it a lot easier to control because I know everything impacts everything else.
Dude, that's great. I love thinking about it as like this one cohesive sort of unit instead of, okay, I've got my fitness, I've got my business, and I've got my family. It's like, no, they're all interconnected. Did it ever get to a point where like you were overstretching one thing and it was sacrificing another piece of this, and then you had to like kind of work through this and like develop that mindset?
Dude, all the time. Fucking, it still happens all the time. Like, business maybe, all of a sudden, like all these people want to start working together. And so I'll go heavy into business. But I refuse to sacrifice my body for whatever reason. That's like the one that I won't sacrifice. So what sacrifices? Well, my relationship with my wife. So then we start to fight. The stressors get there, and then I'll go dump emotion and time into the relationship, which means my business is going to suffer. And so it's really in this spot where like you just have to be super aware of it. And like there's going to be seasons of life where some are going to start to kind of decline and atrophy, and you're just going to have to be okay with that for the moment. But you can't let it get to zero, and you can't let that keep going. You have to get into it. But, like when we had a baby, my business was going to suffer for a bit. It's going to be really hard to stay in the game for that long. And you have to be okay with it because it's just for a moment. It's not forever.
Yeah. It's just this like never ending balancing act. And I think you said like the awareness of like what season of life you're in. Like, and what I've found is like some things you kind of do in sprints of like, okay, for this period of time, we're going to sprint on the business. Other things might lack a little bit for just a short period of time, but then you're back to those other things, and it's like this constant ebb and flow of these things. What is like a typical day in the life look like for you, like to fit all these things into a 24-hour window?
Yeah, I'm usually up at 3:15, so I get up at 3:15, and I'll chug a bunch of water. I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll meditate for 20 minutes. Then I'll hop into my stack or like a journal for about 60 minutes. Leave for the gym around 5:15, work out until about 6:45, come home. Then it's my time with my son while my wife goes to the gym. Then around 9 o'clock, I'll start my day and I'll get into business meetings. Kind of on the way home or at the gym, I'm sending out some like gratitude texts to people, just letting them know that I'm thinking about them, really trying to connect with them. And then I'll come back, I'll hop into work, dude, right after I spend time with my son. I got sales calls, I have marketing stuff, I'm creating content. I'm going on appointments. I kind of wrap the day up with almost treating it like an MBA program. I'll spend 90 minutes, learning about something. And then I usually finish around 5:45. I'll go downstairs and have dinner with my wife and Luca. We'll hang out, put him to bed around 7, hop in, do a little bit more work. And then me and my wife will hang out for a bit, go to bed around 9:30, and then do it again.
Damn, that's a packed day.
Every day, every fucking day. Saturday and Sunday, I don't have that much work to do, but I'm up at 3:15. The one thing that like doesn't change for me is up at 3:15, coffee, meditation, journaling, every day. every single day. And then some type of movement,
Do you ever feel burnt out from all that, trying to squeeze all that stuff in like that every day?
At first I did. At first I felt really burnt out. But what I've seen is my consistency with it. The meditation and the journaling make me the best version of me, which now allows me to show up in the relationship very differently and allows me to move through the day with confidence. And if there's one thing that I guess the best way I could describe it, it's almost like it awakens my soul every morning. And in that, like, I tap into a source of energy that I didn't know was there. But that's taken a decade to figure out.
Do you think that meditation and journaling is where a lot of this awareness comes from? Because that's, for me, like, I try and meditate and journal daily as well. I don't get to it every single day, but on days that I do, it's like I can totally tell, like, I feel more aware of, like, the way I'm feeling, the way I'm thinking. Is that kind of the same for you?
Yeah, I look as meditation creates power and capacity, your ability to manage stress and ground yourself and, like, hear yourself and what's going on. Journaling creates perspective. It allows you to take yourself from, like, maybe like the pit that you find yourself in the morning. Maybe there's something that's going on. It allows you to work through it, cycle your way through it, get to a spot where you've rewritten the story so that it serves you and supports you. And now because of that, you have perspective on things and you can move through the day with confidence. And it's a very different way than just waking up, going to Starbucks and getting a coffee and then rushing to a meeting. Yeah. Like, there's a reason you're awake, like physically and mentally and emotionally awake for your days, because the work you do. And you're going to beat anybody that just wakes up and goes to get their vanilla latte and then goes to work.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy what just like literally 5 minutes of like quiet solitude meditation can do for your day. It's like literally it takes just a couple of minutes. It's pretty crazy. What's your like meditation? If it's personal, you don't have to share it if you don't want to. But like, what's your meditation routine kind of look like?
Yeah, so dude, nothing's personal. I'm like an open book. You can press on anything you want.
I love it.
So I've been using Headspace and Endel. Endel's a fantastic app.
I'm gonna write that down.
But I like to rotate different spots, and I can send you like a code for it for a discount. I don't think I have a sponsor, but they sent me a link to give people. So
I'll take it.
Yeah, but usually what I try to do is I meditate for 20 minutes every day, and it just depends on the direction I want to sit. So I did this meditation retreat where we learned about different types of meditation, and one of them was just directional meditation, whether your body's facing west, east, south, or north. And based on the experience for me, I had very different types of meditation. So facing west is more about like expansion. Facing east is more about like new development. Facing south is like protection. And facing north is more so just like creativity. And for me, that was just kind of what came up. Everybody's a little bit different, but depending on my mood, right, I'm just kind of like follow my gut, and I'll sit there and I'll meditate for 20 minutes. And then I'll hop into my stacking software.
Interesting. I've never heard like the directional aspect of that. What do you think caused that? Does anybody know? Is it just like a connection with Earth and like the like different gravitational poles or something? Like, what do you think that is?
Oh no, this is some real fucking white people shit. Yeah. Now. But what I'll say is like the way it was explained to me is, there's obviously energy lines that run through, everything. Mm-hmm. And so your ability to face different directions obviously puts you in alignment with different things. Now, whether that's true or not doesn't really matter, because if you believe it, then it works. So I found just trying different ones and spending multiple meditation sessions in there, and then just being like, well, are there similarities here? And then I was able to see some of those, and it's kind of, long answer to your question. I think there's some like energy like sources that are associated with it, but I'm not too sure. And I don't want to butcher it any more than I already have.
That is some white people shit, but it makes perfect sense. Like, dude, I'm such a believer in like energy, and like we all kind of give off this energy to people, whether we realize it or not. And it's I don't know, something I've been thinking about more lately, and I think I want to kind of dive into that stuff. So you give me a spark to kind of learn more about that and test some of that stuff out. What about your journaling? Do you have like I know there's like habit tracking journals. There's some stuff that give you prompts every day. Do you just like write out your thoughts? What do you do for that?
Yeah. So my coaching company, I have a software that we use, and it's prompted journaling kind of based on your emotion or whatever you want to kind of find out in your business. So there's a stack for guilt. There's a stack for shame. There's a stack for rage. There's one for happiness and gratitude. And so just kind of depending on where I'm at and what I want to explore after what came up in meditation, I'll choose one of those, and then I'll kind of go through that prompted series.
I love that, dude. Might have to get some more information on that one too.
Yeah, dude. Anytime.
Heck yeah, dude. So what's your like ultimate goal? What's the ultimate goal for Sergio? Like, what are you trying to accomplish and do, and like get to the end of your life? What's gonna be like, man, I'm fulfilled and I'm content with how I did things.
This is it, man. I'm doing it right now. Like, this coaching company is it. I know in my soul. I told you there is 4. This is the 4th time. This is the 4th time my soul has been like, hey, this is it. You need to go. And I'm following it. And I don't take that shit lightly, but I know for a fact that I'm here to lead. And if I can get to the end of my life and I can have had an impact on men and women that have then had an impact on their families and their children, and those children have an impact on the future generation in this world, dude, like, that's where I'm going at. Because the state of the current world is kind of fucked. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to bring kids into this world. And I'm like, you realize the only way to change this is for good people to raise good children. And so I want to create men and women who are strong enough to raise strong, independent children and like break through some of this shit, man. Like, it's heavy and it doesn't need to be.
I love that, dude. The world is a mess, or whatever you said is an understatement, I think. It's wild out there, man, and I think that's a really good point. Like, if you want to change it, like, yes, each individual person can have an impact, but like by raising your kids and doing it the right way and spreading more positivity out there, that's one of the best ways to do it, in my opinion. But man, I love that. I love that mission and that idea and the impact that you're striving to have and the impact that I think you are having.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Of course, man. So where's the best place for people to connect with you and find you and chat with you if they want?
Yeah, go Instagram, Sergio.Nazzaro. I tend to go on a lot of rants on there. I'm pretty much live every day talking about something. So come on over, check me out. And, everything that you need to know about me is on there. So yeah, that's probably the best spot.
Beautiful. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us and providing a ton of value and insight into all the things that you do. So I really enjoyed this, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Jeremy, thank you. And just so you know, dude, you're a really good host. You do a good job at this, man.
I'm trying to be. You're my 21st episode, so I'm still working out the kinks, but we're getting there.
Yeah, you're crushing it.
All right, thanks, dude. All right, well, we'll see you later, man. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.